Shalom, may the peace and love of Christ be with you. My name is Michael Koplitz, and I've been a pastor for over 25 years, and I am a Messianic rabbi. This message is a part of my series titled Worship by Subject. Thank you for joining me on this learning adventure into the Word of God. Imagine with me that you are driving down the interstate. You pass a sign that says speed limit 65 miles per hour. You decide that's too slow, so you punch your car up to 85 miles per hour. A few miles later, you see flashing lights in your rearview mirror. A police officer is pulling you over and giving you a ticket. You wonder, why does this officer think he has the authority to stop me because I was speeding? Or better yet, who decided the speed limit should be 65? Who makes these rules in our society, and why? These are great questions, and they echo questions Jesus raised in the healing narratives. In Luke 14, 1-6, Jesus is having a meal with a leader of the Pharisees. A man with edema appears, and Jesus decides to heal him. This narrative excludes plenty of details. Did the man come into the house, or did Jesus go outside to meet him? The man doesn't ask Jesus for healing, and Jesus doesn't ask him anything. Jesus simply heals him and then speaks to the Pharisees about healing on the Sabbath, even though they hadn't asked any questions. The author of Luke's gospel leaves space for us to speculate. One thing we need to know about Semitic writers in Jesus' time is that they didn't include physical descriptions. We have no description of Jesus in the Gospels, no height, no eye color, because that wasn't necessary to the writers. Their focus was on his words and actions, not his appearance. So while we can guess what people in the Near East looked like, we'll never know for sure. Now back to the question, who made the rule that the speed limit is 65? That's what Jesus was getting at. He was asking the Pharisees, through this healing and others, by what authority they made these laws and rules. Here's an important cultural detail. There were 39 defined activities that were prohibited on the Sabbath. If you're wondering who came up with these 39, that's a great question. The Bible simply says, do no work on the Sabbath. God didn't define what work meant. Logically, some tasks had to be done even on the Sabbath, like feeding animals. If your son fell into a pit, you wouldn't leave him there until sundown. Yet pulling him out would technically be work. Why was healing considered work by the Pharisees? Healers would take various plants and roots, grind them into a powder, and then mix the powder with water to create an ointment or a drinkable remedy. Guess what? Grinding into a powder was one of the 39 activities prohibited on the Sabbath. Therefore, the Pharisees assumed that for Jesus to heal the man with edema, he would need to prepare medicine by grinding herbs, an act that would violate their Sabbath restrictions. They never considered that Jesus might have had an ointment ready beforehand. That wasn't how they thought in those days. Since ground herbs and powders had a limited shelf life, healers typically prepared ointments and drinks on the spot when needed. For this reason, healers generally did not perform healings on the Sabbath. The Pharisees never considered that Jesus could heal without any physical or medicine remedy. This raises the bigger question: who makes the rules? Look at our laws today. Who decides what we can and can't do? In the U.S., we elect leaders to create laws, but bureaucrats, who we never voted on, often make regulations. Think back to 2020 during COVID-19. Who decided we had to stay 6 feet apart, wear masks, or get vaccines? Bureaucrats did, and elected leaders let them. The same happens with zoning laws and countless regulations at every level of government. Even worse, elected officials frequently campaign on promises they can't or won't keep. For example, the New York City mayor, elected in 2024, promised free bus and train service. People voted for him because of that promise. But in 2025, one of his first actions was to raise fares. He said what people wanted to hear to get elected, then did what he wanted. Sadly, church elections can be similar. Candidates promise things they know won't be delivered. That's a sobering reality, not just in politics, but in church leadership. So what do? We need to question why laws are made, whether by elected officials or bureaucracies. Jesus modeled this when he challenged the Pharisees and Sadducees. Who gave you authority to impose rules that don't align with God's law? We need to make that same challenge today, in society and in church. Politicians say what they think we want to hear to get elected.
How do we know what they truly believe? By asking hard questions and holding them accountable. Jesus warns us to choose leaders carefully, those who truly stand for the principles they claim. In his day, people were easily controlled by religious leaders. We must ensure that doesn't happen to us. Unfortunately, it already has in many ways. The question now is, how do we reverse it?
Thank you for listening to this message. May the love and peace of God be with you now and forever. Shalom.